I'm going to remind you that we've been making a cheat sheet. So the day of the STAR test, you're not going to need to write these up on each paper. But for the sake of getting Skittles on this, let's go ahead and write them. So the first thing you should have done is written your name at the top. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. The next strategy that we use is to put our proofreading marks. Caret up, caret down, caret with a comma, period with a circle, SP, bloop bloop, slash, 3 lines, arrows, wrong tense, and wrong word. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. The next strategy that we use is we put brackets around our intro, and we write intro. Katrina wrote the following paper about 3 inspiring young people. Read Katrina's paper and look for any corrections that she should make. If it says revising or revisions, you know it's revising. If it says corrections and mistakes, then you know that it's editing. What the difference is, when it's revising, you rely, just like yesterday, you rely on the questions. But if it says editing, you know there's going to be mistakes, and we're going to be looking for those mistakes and hopefully catch them as we're reading them. So if you put brackets around your intro and you wrote intro, give yourself a tally mark. The next strategy that we use is we're going to label the different parts of our story. So you should label the intro A. You should underline the title and label it B. There's no pictures or bar graphs or anything else, so we don't have to label anything else. If you did that and you labeled the different parts of your story, give yourself a tally mark. The next strategy that we use is we're going to cheat. So we're going to look at our questions and see which sentences are going to ask us questions about. The first one is sentence 4. The next one is what change, if any, should be made in sentence 10. Number 15 says, what is the correct way to write sentences 17 and 18? So over here, you're going to highlight sentence 17, highlight sentence 18. You're going to put parentheses before 17 and after 18 because we're going to combine those two sentences, or we're going to address those together. What change, if any, needs to be made in sentence 22? So we're going to highlight sentence 22. What change, if any, needs to be made in sentence 30? So we're going to highlight sentence 30. What change, if any, needs to be made in sentence 35? We're going to highlight sentence 35. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. So before we ever even start reading our story, you could have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could have 5 tally marks so far. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to read, and as we read, we're going to stop on the sentences that we know they're going to ask us questions about, and we're going to see if we can figure out the problem. Some kids think that they're too young to do anything really important, but that isn't true. There are a lot of kids today who are making a big difference in the world. All it takes is a good idea, a caring heart, and a determined spirit. When Abigail Lupi of Stockholm, New Jersey, was just 7 years old, she wanted to do something special for her great-grandmother's 100th birthday. When I'm reading this, what I notice is great-grandmothers ends in an S. And we talked about this last week. We were talking about apostrophes. Are we talking about more than one great-grandma? Or are we talking about one great-grandma and the 100th birthday that belongs to that one grandma? We're talking about the one grandma, so great-grandmother, and we're talking about the 100th birthday that belongs to that great-grandmother. So you need to insert an apostrophe between the R and the S to show ownership, the 100th birthday that belongs to the grandmother. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. She learned a few songs and performed them at the assisted living center where her great-grandmother lived. While she was there, she noticed that some of the elderly residents seemed lonely. Abigail enlisted the help of some friends and formed Care Girls. Today, the members of Care Girls, who range in ages from 6 to 13, sing and dance at assisted living centers, nursing homes, and children's hospitals. The group has performed in more than 20 different locations, bringing joy to hundreds of people. I like to brighten up people's days and help them to have fun, says Abigail. Well, when I look at this, I see that this is an apostrophe S, and I see that there's a mistake in sentence 10. The days that belong to the people, so that would make sense. The other thing that I notice is that quotation marks come around words that people actually say. And where you have quotation marks, you have to have them at the beginning and at the end. So in this case, what did Abigail say? She said, I like to brighten up people's days and help them have a fun time, says Abigail. Well, we know where her quote ends, but we don't know where it begins. So you should have inserted quotation marks, because quotation marks you have to have 2 at the beginning, 2 at the end. So you should have inserted quotation marks at the beginning of sentence 10 before I like to brighten up people's days and help them have fun. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Sentence 11, it makes me happy to see that I'm making others happy. After a terrible earthquake shook Haiti in 2010, 12-year-old Blair Gooch of Grand Rapids, Michigan, wanted to do something to help. He saw children on television who had lost everything, and it made him sad. That's when he remembered how attached he had been to his favorite teddy bear. His school let him make an announcement asking kids to donate teddy bears for children in Haiti. The local media found out about Blair's plan, and soon many people were donating teddy bears. They want us to combine sentences 17 and 18. All the attention prompted Blair to create an organization. Sentence 17 is all right. Sentence 18, called Blair's Bears for Haiti. Called Blair's Bears for Haiti is not a complete sentence, but if I bloop out the period in lowercase called, all the attention prompted Blair to create an organization called Blair's Bears for Haiti. So by blooping out the period and lowercasing the C, it makes this a perfect sentence to combine the two. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. The organization collected and donated about 25,000 bears. Blair wants other kids to know that they, too, can make a difference. It doesn't really matter how old or young you are, he insists. If you're young and think you can't make a big difference in the world, well, you actually can. When I look at this, I see the quotation marks, and it has them at the beginning and the end. What my eye is immediately drawn to is this word, your, because this is a homophone that oftentimes people confuse. If it's Y-O-U-R, it belongs to you. Something belongs to you. Your house, your coat. You're young? Young couldn't belong to you. You're young, that really doesn't make sense. The other homophone for that is you are, which is Y-O-U''re. If you are young and think you can't make a big difference in the world, well, you actually can. So in this case, you should have put wrong word. It needs to be you are. There's a couple of different ways that you could fix it. I would just bloop it out and I would just put a caret and write it correctly. U''re. If you are young and think you can't make a big difference in the world, well, you actually can. So if you found that mistake, give yourself a tally mark. Charlie Coons, who lives in Simi Valley, California, is another example of a kid who made a difference. One year, her older brother volunteered at an orphanage in Egypt. When he returned home, he told 11-year-old Charlie that the children at the orphanage were very cold at night. Charlie couldn't bear the thought of other kids suffering. With the help of some friends, she made several fleece blankets to send to the orphans. But Charlie wanted to do more. She began speaking to various community groups to raise money for a new organization, HELP, H-E-L-P, which stands for Hope, Encouragement, Love, and Peace. Sentence 30, it says there's going to be a mistake in. HELP has now sended approximately 700 blankets to children in the Middle East, Africa, and Central America. That's not the way we talk. We don't say HELP has now sended. Sended is the wrong tense of the word. It's actually the wrong word too, but you can put wrong tense. Sended is not a word. I sended you a Valentine on Valentine's Day. That's not how we talk. it's the wrong tense or wrong word, you should bloop it out and you should insert sent. The past tense of send is sent, not sended. If you found that mistake, give yourself a tally mark. Charlie is excited to help even more children. My goal is to touch as many lives as I can, she explains. I think this is something that I will do for the rest of my life. It doesn't pay anything in dollars, but there is no price tag in making a difference in a child's life. Okay, we're looking for mistake in sentence 35. Each of these young people saw a need. Right here's a comment of fanboy. And instead of waiting for an adult to address it, they jumped in and filled the need themselves. Well, we talked about this last week when we were doing sinners. But let's check the fanboy's word first. Fanboy and comma. Each of these young people saw a need. That's a complete sentence. Instead of waiting for an adult to address it, they jumped in and filled the need themselves. That's right. So it's complete on the left, complete on the right. It needs both a comma and a fanboys to make it right. The other word that stands out to me is themselves. Every once in a while, you're going to have an irregular word that you have to change. 1/2, 2 halves, 1 baby calf, 18 baby calves. This is another one. Themselves is not a word. Themselves. You should change the F. I'll just bleep out selves, themselves, and do selves. SELVES. I hope you caught that because we just did an activity with that last week. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Their stories show that kids really can make a difference in the world. So far you could have had 5 tally marks for using your strategies, and then you could have had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You could have earned 11 tally marks before you ever even get to your questions. And this is what your story should look like. If your story is perfectly clean before you get to your questions, then you're not doing it right, because I need to be able to see that you're trying to find those mistakes before you ever even get to your questions.